What if I told you that everything you've seen in movies, everything you've read in conspiracy theories or heard whispered about government cover-ups doesn't even come close to the truth about what we call aliens? What if I told you I died, stood before Jesus himself, and in that place beyond time and space, he revealed to me the shocking reality behind these beings that so many people are fascinated by, terrified of, and confused about? I know how crazy that sounds. I didn't believe in that stuff before this happened. But now, after what I saw, after what he showed me, I can't unsee it, and I can't keep it to myself. The day I died was ordinary, at first. I wasn't sick. I wasn't planning on leaving this world. It was sudden, a massive cardiac arrest that dropped me to the ground before I had a chance to call for help. I remember gasping, clutching my chest, falling against the cold floor, and then silence. But it wasn't the silence of sleep. It was the silence of separation. My spirit pulled free from my body, like a hand slipping out of a glove. At first, I floated above the scene. I saw the paramedics rushing, shouting, pounding on my chest. I saw my wife crying, her face white with terror. But then the pull came, strong, unstoppable. Darkness closed in, then light broke through, dazzling, living, unlike anything on earth. And at the center of that light, Jesus. There's no describing him in full. His eyes burned with fire and compassion. His presence radiated a love so fierce it tore me open and healed me at the same time. I fell before him. No body, just spirit, and every hidden part of me was laid bare. I knew I didn't deserve his love, but I also knew he gave it freely. Then he spoke my name, not just the sound, but the meaning of it, like he had spoken it into existence before the foundation of the world. And he said, "You are not finished. But before you return, there is something you must see, something many are being deceived by. You must speak of it when you go back." I trembled, unsure of what he meant. Then the light shifted, and suddenly I was looking at something I never expected. I saw the skies over the earth, not the blue skies we know, but skies filled with strange lights, crafts darting back and forth, shapes that defied our laws of physics. People on Earth looked up, pointing, recording on their phones, terrified and amazed. Governments scrambled, scientists speculated, and whispers spread across the world. We are not alone. Then he showed me what was really behind it. Those beings people call aliens, the ones so many hope will come with answers, with salvation, with higher knowledge. They were not what they appeared. Jesus pulled back the veil, and I saw them for what they truly were: demonic entities, deceivers, fallen ones masquerading as something new to confuse humanity. Their forms shifted, sometimes tall and luminous, sometimes grotesque, sometimes mechanical. But their eyes betrayed them, eyes cold, manipulative, hungry. I saw them moving across the skies, planting seeds of lies into human hearts. We created you. We are your gods. Follow us. And nations listened. Leaders bowed, scientists celebrated, and ordinary people confused, desperate for hope, believed. I turned to Jesus, horrified. "Lord, why would you allow this?" And he said, his voice trembling with sorrow and fire, "Because they chose lies over truth. Because in the last days, deception will multiply, and many will fall, not because they were not warned, but because they did not love the truth." He showed me visions then, rapid and terrifying. I saw great gatherings where humans welcomed these beings as saviors, believing their promises of peace and knowledge. I saw entire religions shift, rewriting themselves around the visitors. I saw technology explode beyond imagination, given by these entities not to bless, but to bind. Chains of light, wrapping around cities, binding minds, enslaving hearts. But then he showed me another scene. Small groups of believers, hidden away, praying, clinging to his word. The deception swirled around them, but they were untouched, because they knew the voice of their shepherd. They weren't fooled by dazzling lights or promises. They held to Jesus, and he held them. I wept, begging him, "Lord, how can I tell them this? No one will believe me." And he looked into me with eyes that burned through every fear and said, "It is not your job to make them believe. It is your job to speak. Let those with ears hear." The vision faded then, and I felt myself pulled backward. The light dimmed, the music of eternity softened, and suddenly pain slammed into me. My chest burned, my lungs convulsed, and I gasped back into my body as doctors shouted, "We've got him back." My wife's sobs filled my ears, and I was alive again. But I wasn't the same man. How could I be? I had stood before Jesus. I had seen the truth about what the world calls aliens, and I knew the deception that was coming. That was just the beginning. Because when I began to tell people, my family, my friends, my church, the reactions were nothing like I expected. Some listened in awe, some mocked, some grew angry. And the battle that followed, living with this testimony, carrying it into a skeptical, hostile world that was even harder than dying. And that's the part I need to tell you now. When I came back into my body, it was like waking from a dream and a nightmare all at once. The hospital lights burned my eyes. The smell of antiseptic stung my nose. And the weight of pain in my chest reminded me I was human again. But my soul wasn't the same. I carried images I could never erase. The lights in the sky, the faces behind them, the sorrow in Jesus's eyes as he revealed their true nature. I didn't know how I was supposed to live with that. At first, I said nothing. Who could I tell? My wife sat beside me, her hand gripping mine, whispering prayers of thanks. She had no idea that while she begged God to bring me back, I had been standing before Jesus himself, watching scenes of deception that would one day engulf the world. I thought, if I open my mouth, she'll think I've gone mad. So I stayed quiet. But silence is heavy. The visions burned in me, pressing on my chest harder than any heart attack ever could. At night, when the machines beeped and the hallways went still, I'd close my eyes and see it all again. Those beings shifting their forms, whispering lies, convincing millions. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, gasping, my wife shaking me awake. She'd ask what was wrong, and all I could say was, "I saw something. I can't explain." When I was finally home, I couldn't hide it anymore. One evening, sitting at the kitchen table, I broke. Tears streamed down my face as I told her everything. The separation from my body, standing before Jesus, the visions of so-called aliens, and his words. "They are deceivers. Speak." She didn't laugh. She didn't dismiss me. She cried. She told me about the nights she'd watched documentaries, read articles, heard whispers of strange sightings, and felt a fear she couldn't explain. "Maybe God gave you this because people need to know," she whispered. So I told my family. That was harder. My brother laughed outright. "You almost die and come back spouting conspiracy theories. Classic." My father shook his head, muttering about brain chemistry and hallucinations. But my mother, quiet, gentle, looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I believe you." That gave me courage. I started sharing with close friends. Some leaned in, hungry, their faces pale as I described how Jesus had shown me governments bowing, scientists celebrating, whole crowds cheering these beings like gods. Others scoffed. "You're just mixing religion with UFO stories," one said. But one friend, one who had been secretly obsessed with UFO sightings for years, broke down crying. He confessed he had started doubting God, thinking maybe humanity really was created by something else. My testimony shook him. He came back to faith, not because of me, but because the Spirit bore witness through my words. As word spread, I was asked to speak. At first, small gatherings, living rooms, Bible studies, then churches, then bigger halls. Each time, I trembled, afraid of mockery. But when I opened my mouth, it wasn't fear that came out. It was fire. I would tell them about Jesus's eyes, his sorrow, his warning. I would describe the shifting forms of those deceivers, the lies they whispered. "We made you. We will save you. Follow us." And every time, the room grew still. People would weep. Some would fall to their knees. Others would storm out angry, unwilling to hear. The backlash came quickly. Pastors pulled me aside, saying, "We don't need this kind of distraction. Just preach the simple gospel." I agreed with them. The gospel is central, but I reminded them that deception is part of the gospel story too. Jesus himself warned, even the elect may be deceived. Some listened, Some banned me from ever speaking again. Online, I was attacked, labeled a fanatic, a liar, a man exploiting a near-death story for attention. Emails came, mocking me, threatening me, calling me insane. One even said, "Shut up, or you'll regret it." I showed it to my wife, shaken, but she reminded me, if the enemy is trying to silence you, it means you're hitting a nerve. And miracles followed. One night, after speaking in a small church, a young man approached me. He looked terrified. He told me he had been part of a group that practiced summoning beings through meditation, convinced they were benevolent aliens. But after hearing my story, he realized they weren't who they claimed to be. He confessed, repented, and renounced it all that night. Later, he told me the nightmares that had haunted him for years finally stopped. But it wasn't just strangers. My testimony rippled into my own family. My skeptical brother, the one who had laughed at me, came to me months later with a shaken look. He had seen something, lights in the sky that behaved in ways no plane could. He admitted my words haunted him ever since. "I don't know if I believe you yet," he said, "but I can't shake the feeling you were right." That crack in his pride was the beginning of his return to faith. Yet the burden weighed heavy. I struggled with despair at times, begging God, "Why me? Why show me this?" And the answer always came the same: because you will speak, and some will listen. One night, I dreamed of that valley again, the one where Jesus showed me believers hidden away, praying while the world bowed to deception. I saw their faces shining in the darkness, their voices lifted in worship. And I woke up with clarity. This was the hope. Yes, deception would come. Yes, many would fall. But those who clung to Jesus would stand. So now, wherever I go, I speak. Sometimes to crowds, sometimes to just one person, sometimes mocked, sometimes embraced, but always with the same urgency burning in my chest. Because I know what I saw, I know who I met. And I know his words, "Do not remain silent." I died. I met Jesus. He showed me the truth about what the world calls aliens. They are not saviors. They are deceivers, and their time is coming. Now the truth is yours. What you do with it, that's between you and him.